I'm recording. That's
I'm
the thing
so
I
used
can
to. I'm still used to doing the control of the Zencaster for the because Andrew's not technical. He's not technical. Bless him. He tries, but he's not technical.
No, fair point. Well, you've got me this time, so that's nice to a certain value of nice, right?
It is. It's good. We've got someone who's a techno whiz.
Never done too unlimited on pop screen. There, for some reason
Their
didn't.
filmic outings have been sparse.
They didn't quite hang around for long enough to have that techno hard day's night that they were obviously capable of. But no,
Dear.
this pop screen, ladies and gentlemen, and others. This is the Geek Show's podcast dealing with the good, the bad, and the ridiculous of movies either starring about or by pop stars, covering everything from documentaries to science fiction, country and western to hip hop. I'm your host, Graham Williamson. I write for the Geek Show, and I also write for Byline Times and Horrified, and We Are Cult sometimes. And I've been joined this week by
Mick,
Hey Mick.
who is not quite as prolific in the world of journalism. In fact, basically, I just answer the call whenever Graham needs dubious standard film watched. I'm there to
And
answer the
Robin's
call.
busy.
Yeah, and Robin's busy. I answer the call.
Yes, because this is kind of the pop screen summer special, isn't it? Does summer specials
It is.
still exist?
Well, they do now. Let's
Mm.
have. Oh, you see, you've got me reminiscing now.
Yeah.
1970s BBC One Summer Saturday Night Seaside Special.
Oh, right. I was thinking more in terms of the Beano and the
Y-
Dandy, which I've
y-
always viewed this podcast as being the inheritor to.
I see it more like Whizzer and Chips.
Mm.
Yeah.
In that they're two completely incompatible elements yoked together, or
No,
co-hosts, as we call them.
in the by combining the world of pop music and cinema, we are like chips enfolding within Wizard.
Yes. Yeah, and also like Whizz and Chips, pop movies are not as popular and successful as that combination would make you think.
Indeed. So there you go.
But it throws up, doesn't it, this combination of pop and cinema? It throws up some odd subgenres that you wouldn't get anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, you say throws up, I'd say vomit.
It's really excreted some original cinema over the years. And today we are dealing with what I would say is probably the biggest in terms of how big it once was, the biggest subgenre that does not exist at all nowadays. Like
Yes.
people say, "Oh, the western's dead," or "the musical's dead." They're not. People still
No,
make
because every now and
westerns.
then one will pop up, won't it?
Yeah,
You know, there'll be a remake of a True Grit, or there'll be a, like a Come Hell or High Water, which was basically a modern western.
yeah. Or, in terms of musicals, as producer Rob was always very fond of pointing out, the musical is only dead if you assume that nobody makes films in India, which I am reliably informed that they do.
Well, and even then, it's even in recent history, you've had people making movies of Les Mis,
Yeah.
you know, and someone made an abortion of cats.
Yes.
So
And we reviewed it on this very podcast, listeners.
yes, that was one that I was thankfully spared. I still haven't seen it. I
It's
think the dench. I think just the dench alone deserves more respect than me watching that movie.
that's fair. Yes, I've seen it twice.
Why do you do these things to yourself?
It's the life I've chosen.
What was the second occasion when you woke up and went, "That never just happened"?
The second occasion was when I did it for the show. The first iteration was when I saw it at the cinema, thinking there's no way I can miss a turkey on this scale.
Oh dear! And it's a turkey that is being roasted by everybody.
Yes. Whereas
There,
this, very
that's a
obscure.
metaphor stretched.
Yeah. Whereas this, as we say, the biggest subgenre that doesn't exist anymore, the beach party movie, not even one of the more famous beach party movies, and yet
This,
uh,
despite the fact that it's the eponymous entry in the genre.
it's not though, is it? It's called Beach Ball. Is this film so unmemorable that you've forgotten the title?
Yes, yes, it is. Yes,
Yeah,
uh,
uh,
yes.
it's it's not one of the more famous ones, but which is surprising because it has a pretty astonishing cast of bands in it.
I mean, in in terms of the genre,
Mm.
it's probably got the biggest names it could possibly have had in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the Supremes, the Walker Brothers, the Four Seasons.
The inimitable Sid Haig.
Yeah, he was playing the drummer
For the Raptors brothers.
for the Righteous Brothers. Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about Sid Haig's horror and exploitation roles, but I'm not sure anything's been quite as skin crawling as that.
And you know, the other thing to bear in mind is people forget just how well known the Righteous Brothers were for their rhythm section.
Yeah. So yeah, really strange. The only reason why a movie with this many stars would fall so completely into obscurity is if it is really embarrassing and so lightweight that you forget everything about it a second after watching it. But that
Mm.
can't be the case, can it?
Yes, yes, it can.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah. um, um, I think sort of offline, I turned around to you and said, "This is a Lost Monkeys episode."
You did, yes. It's definitely got that vibe to it.
Um, and you see, the thing is, there are various times that we talk about film, and we used to do this on Eclectica, and we used to do it on Four Panel when we did comic book films on Four Panel
Hmm.
um, back in the day, i.e., BC
Yes.
before COVID. Um, Roger Corman involvement,
Yeah.
and Roger Corman gave someone $100,000 to make this movie.
Which is
My
shocking.
question is, what they did with the other 950,000 after they paid the bands,
Yes.
or 95,000 after they paid the bands.
Because we should set up what a beach party movie is for anyone who hasn't watched them, which I imagine will be pretty much everyone these days.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
There was a genre that developed in the late 50s and early 60s after the success of Gidget starring Sandra Dee, uh, which was about a bunch of young teens wearing bikinis if they were a woman, sometimes if they were a man. Uh, Parents were mysteriously absent for the whole thing. You could make a post-apocalyptic beach party movie where like some plague has wiped out everyone over 20 and it would look no different to the
Oh
actual
my God,
thing.
it's basically a prototype for the Tribe, isn't it?
For the what?
Oh, you're not aware of the Tribe?
No?
It was one of Channel 5's earliest dramas.
Right, so that's why I'm not aware of it, because it'll have looked like a snowstorm in my
Actually,
house.
it wasn't that bad. It was a post-apocalyptic sort of. I think it was either Australian or New Zealand drama series that they
Oh,
bought up.
yeah.
Well, it was that kind of a vibe in that it was.
Yeah.
Would a more apposite reference be the Star Trek episode? Is it Miri?
I think the one I was thinking of was Reverse Children of Men.
Right. Yes.
Except,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
except without the levity and joyful comic relief. Um,
But yeah, you can sum the plot of all of these movies up with boy meets girl,
mhm,
boy falls in love with girl, boy has some kind of financial trauma
yeah,
that means he has to get out of town quick.
and the girl is like, not dating a poor.
Um, boy then finds wildly unrealistic scheme to make money.
Yes.
Girl supports him in this right up to the point where she thinks it's going to fail and then sods off, only to come back when it turns out that boy, with all of his friends, none of whom have any discernible talent or skill, overturn the odds to win out the day and get the money. At which point she falls hopelessly in love with him and they live happily ever after. And there is
Yes.
never a sequel.
I mean, these are not complex films, as I think Mick's entirely accurate summary is. So, but like all things that form their own subgenre, there are weird rules to them. They are, as you note, ruthlessly capitalistic films. Like the
They are.
only way you can win anyone over in Beach Party Land is by having money. They are also
But the other thing to bear in mind is that there is no problem so great that you can't forget about it for 2.5 minutes without everyone in the cast bursting into song.
yes,
But
this is
not in a
true.
musical style. There's got to be a band playing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. The other thing that I think is distinctive about them is that they exceed even their closest rival in the weird 60s subgenre stakes, the Hammer prehistoric movies, by being both intensely sexless and intensely horny at the same time.
Indeed, yes, yes. Um, all the girls are skimpily dressed with a side order of bland.
Yes.
All the boys are stripped to the waist and wearing shorts with a
It,
side order of bland.
it's 50 Shades of Mayonnaise, listeners.
Yes, and all the boys have got the same haircut. It's just the shade that varies, and all the girls have got similar haircuts, but the blonde is always the heroine.
Yes. Yeah, you can't have your hero going out with a brunette or, heaven forfend, a redhead.
Indeed.
Yeah, the hair was one of the first big things I noticed because the opening scene of this film has the girls on the beach calling out to some stock footage of surfers. I assume they're at a film festival. Uh,
Driving movie. That is
yeah.
what.
But by an amazing coincidence, the hero, played by Ed Burns, not the stand-up comedian, uh,
It's a shame, isn't it? That would be a
yeah,
very different film.
yes. But he's out surfing, and just as one of the bits of stock footage wipes out, he must wipe out as well. And yet he gets out of the sea with perfectly dry hair, which is incredible.
A scene that hasn't been seen again until Kevin Costner in Prince of Thieves.
Yes.
after 3 weeks on a raft.
So I mean, to be forgiving, they had to film these things. All of these movies were filmed in like January or February, so they could be
Yeah.
out for the summer holidays. So I do not blame Ed Burns, not the stand-up, for being unwilling to be dunked into January seas.
Oh, imagine if it had been Atonement and they'd been doing it in January in Redcar.
That would be a good thing, wouldn't it? A red car beach party movie.
Let's do it, Graham. Let's do it.
Yeah,
We've got the skills.
the entertainment would be different, wouldn't it? There'd be a
It would.
bit less of the Supremes and a bit more twocking.
Instead of the instead of the opening stock footage of surfers on the beach, it'd be a opening stock footage of wiping lard on channel swimmers. Ah,
It's got all of the kitschy 60s hallmarks, though, doesn't it? It's got the cartoon opening credits,
yeah.
which I was confused at first because this is barring the musicians, this is a cast of nobodies.
Yes.
It it's not like some of the bigger AIP beach party movies where they could get cameos like in Beach Blanket Bingo, Buster Keaton.
Right. But I think you're being a little bit unfair on the casting here. I
Yeah.
mean, we've mentioned that the budget for this film was $100,000. Would you like to hazard a guess at how much Mr. Burns, not the comedian, earned?
It's going to be absolutely scandalous, isn't it? It's going to be about 3 grand.
22. Nearly a quarter of the budget went on
Oh,
Mr. Burns, not the comedian. I mean, if I'd have paid 22,000 out of £100,000 budget, I'd have demanded the bloody comedian.
that's scandalous in the exact other way because they are not getting their money's worth.
No, the Supremes, 2.5K. Righteous Brothers, 500. And the
Wow.
Hondells, 400. And quite frankly, in comparison to the Righteous Brothers and the Supremes, they should think themselves lucky to get that.
Yes, that's astonishing because I was thinking you can sort of tell that they don't value their music stars as much as they should because in those opening credits, I was trying to work out if the cartoons accompanying each name were meant to be a cartoon of the person whose name it
Yes,
was.
that soon fell apart when it got to the Supremes.
Oh boy, yeah. A car full of white girls represents the Supremes.
It looked more like the adverts for Sheila's Wheels than the Supremes.
Yeah. Um, so then, as you say, it ticks off every box. There's a financial problem. About 15 minutes in, they're trying to get money to buy instruments for their band who sound, I mean, they're litigiously close to the Beach Boys sound, aren't
They
they?
are. They are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their main innovation, and it's one that I like, is that they do have a melodica.
Yes,
More bands should have a melodica.
they should. Or maybe they shouldn't. And maybe that's why bands don't have one. Nerds.
Yeah,
Maybe there's a reason for that.
it took 30 years before Damon Albarn and Clinic could both like bring the melodica back from the embarrassment of being in this.
Yeah. Um. How, hold on. That means that each Supreme got like £825 a piece if they were lucky.
It's amazing, isn't it? And you know Diana Ross more than anyone else.
Yeah. Scandal.
Yeah, it's
Scandalous.
not the business of angels at this stage, is it? Pop music.
No. no.
There's a certain egalitarianism in modern pop music caused by the fact that thanks to Spotify, no one has any money.
That's right. No, all the money now in music is earned by ripping off fans for golden ticket passes that cost three times the amount of the most expensive ticket for the rest of the people,
Yes, that's very true. Or
for
yet
the
another
chance of 5 seconds of breathing the same air as your idol.
repackaged edition of Midnights with 2 extra tracks. Not that I'm bitter.
Well,
Some people.
the thing is, I looked, and yesterday, sorry, tomorrow, I'm going to see a gig,
Mm,
and it's the most expensive gig I've ever paid for. So much so that I actually Klarna'd the tickets.
you Clan Delvade the tickets.
I no, no, I Klarna'd the ticket. I paid for them in installments
Right.
to go see Blondie. The tickets were that pricey, but there were VIP tickets available as well. I balked at the price for those.
Yeah.
Um, Also, incidentally, given the age of Miss Harry, it's also the only time I've bought insurance for the tickets.
Oh dear. Yes, it's not the kind of industry where you can get in just by like raising enough money to buy some instruments and having a melodica anymore.
No, no, gone are those days.
And watching this film, thank God.
Well, yeah, but also it must have been really tough because um, it wasn't just that they were a band. Apparently, every fifth person on the beach had a band.
Yeah, yeah.
And the only reason that the other four didn't have a band is because they were in the band belonging to every fifth person on the beach.
Yeah, so it's quite frustrating because this is a fairly short film. You know, it's cheap and it has this amazing cast of pop stars, very few of whom are showcased in any kind of detail whatsoever. There just isn't the space for that.
Yeah, I think the stage directions in the script for the Supremes were the Supremes enter, they sing a song, they sing another song, they leave.
I mean, they at least got 2 songs.
Well, at 2.5 grand for an appearance, what do you expect? Gotta get your money's worth.
And I could recognize the Supremes because they are apparently the only black people in California, according to this
Indeed,
movie. Yes.
indeed.
The rest of the film is unquestionably honky heavy.
Yeah, and they did look. I wouldn't say they looked uncomfortable, but they very much looked like we're going to sing a contractual obligation, and then we're going to sing another contractual obligation,
Yes.
and then we'll go.
Yeah. Which, is smart because the rest of the film is the sort of film where there's a stuffy old dean who looks like a sort of short version of Richard Osman, who doesn't
Yeah,
want any of this rock and or roll music on his campus, but then he sees the bikini girls and he's
and he's
twisting
in.
away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you've got the librarian style funding committee.
Yes.
Uh, oh, it it's this kind of film, this kind of film that led to someone thinking Greece was a good idea.
It's main pop cultural ripple effect for me, and I'm sure this is true of many of the beach party movies, is that nowadays you watch it and you just tick off the list. You think, oh yeah, that was parodied on The Simpsons. That was parodied on Futurama. That was parodied on a different Futurama. So if Matt Groening hadn't seen all these when he was a teenager, they would have no cultural footprint whatsoever.
True, true. Um, but yeah, and I think this is why it's such a short movie. It is like the plot of every Monkeys episode
Yeah,
because the Monkeys episodes have the same format points. The
yeah,
band are struggling.
yeah,
Someone's out to stop the band performing. Davy Jones is in love with a girl who's
yeah.
only fallen in love with him because of his quaint English accent and the fact that he's short.
And the fact that he's in like an internationally successful pop band, which doesn't hurt.
Well, yeah. Um, and much hilarity ensues. This is exactly like a Monkeys episode, but without the hilarity ensuing.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, this works for Monkeys episodes because they are about 25 minutes long. When the
Yeah.
Monkeys decided to expand to feature length, they had a few contingency plans like let's drop a load of acid and play real execution footage from Vietnam.
I mean, you've got to mix it up. When you're extending the format, you've got to mix it up.
Yeah. Have you seen Head?
I haven't. I was hoping to be on that episode, and then you passed me over for some other whippersnapper.
Did I? Oh dear.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very strange film, Head. I kind of like it. I'll put that out there.
I'll give it a go at some point.
Hmm.
You've got to be very careful how you phrase watching
Well, that
this
was the
movie.
plan. They were
Yeah.
thinking, and this is a film that was co-written by Jack Nicholson, so of course this sort of stuff finds its way in there. But they
Yes.
were thinking that if it was a success, they could do a follow-up and have on the poster from the people who gave you Head.
Yes.
And they flopped,
Mm.
which is even funnier than that joke, really.
um. Oh, that's a sentence I didn't expect to hear. I mean, we've
What?
already mentioned the fact that Ed Burns is the leading man. In
Yeah.
November 1964, Tommy Kirk was originally announced as the male star, along with Noel Edmonds.
Don't get this podcast on the subject of Edmonds again.
I suspect this is not the Noel Edmonds, just a Noel Edmonds of no significance
Never
whatsoever.
know.
Oh no, that is the Noel Edmonds.
I mean, Noel Edmonds never gets any older, so it's possible that he could have
Yeah,
been in Beach Party movies in the
I
1960s.
would have thought though, even though he is the very definition of tidy beard blandness, he would at least have a blue link on Wikipedia.
Yes. But that would be if we could find footage of his like screen test, and we could find out if he really was that Noel Edmonds, it would confirm my theory that Noel Edmonds is in fact Count Saint Germain, the immortal nobleman of the pre-revolutionary French court.
Well, I'm looking at Noel Tidybeard's own Wikipedia thing here, and I'm afraid the earliest entry in his extensive, surprisingly, filmography
Mm.
is Come Dancing, one episode in 1970.
What a bizarre career. Yes.
He did, right. In 1970, one episode of Come Dancing.
Right.
72 to 81, that's a 9-year stint of a weekly show. He managed 76 episodes of Top of the Pops
Right. Yes.
and one episode of Disney Time in 1973.
I mean, it's possible that Noel Edmonds has been calculated to be such a everyday name that the immortal Noel Edmonds can just keep reusing it and no one thinks, Noel Edmonds, that's strange, and Noel Edmonds died last year. Oh yeah, there's loads of Noel Edmonds. Kind of like how no one asks too many questions about all the John Smiths who work at UNIT.
Well, there is that, yeah, yeah. Or, or could he be evidence of that offshoot project, Orphan Bland?
Yes, orphan beige. Yes,
But anyway,
maybe
back to
that's
the
it.
other Noel Edmonds who didn't appear in Beach Ball.
No, he didn't. And neither did Ed Byrne. I think that the parallel universe cast that we're assembling for this is pretty great, right?
Who else could we have? So we've got Chris Noel as Susan, Noel Gordon as Susan, um, Robert Logan as Banjo, Hulk Hogan, Aaron Kincaid, Randy Quaid.
Oh wow! I mean, Noel Edmonds and Randy Quaid on the same set. You cannot imagine the madness that would ensue there.
Gail Gilmore as Deborah. I'm going to put an outfield suggestion here. Gary Gilmore.
Who, thanks to the adverts, has more of a pop music career than anyone acting in this.
Uh,
But yeah,
right.
to go on to the actual bands, we've mentioned the Supremes, we've mentioned the Righteous Brothers. There's a bit of Frankie Valli at the start, is there not?
There is.
Yeah.
And I don't know about the version of this you watched because it is available on the Tube of You.
Yes.
Um, Mine was a very dodgy uploaded VHS recording of a VH1 presentation of the film.
Did they
Um,
have pop-up trivia?
it it didn't have pop up trivia, but it did, but it had what I like to think of as pop up trivia plus. The pop up trivia came either side of the ad breaks, courtesy of Frankie Valli himself.
No way. I
Yeah.
feel distraught that I didn't get that.
Well, yeah. So he would introduce every little segment with a fun fact. And some of the facts were so fun that they stayed in my mind until the next ad break.
Is that where you got all of this information about who was paid what? Was it just Frankie Valli bitching about how the producers lowballed him?
This is the thing. No, I mean, this is on the Wikipedia entry for Beach Ball, right? So,
Right.
take the facts with a pinch of salt. But the 4 seasons of Frankie Valli don't even get a mention. They don't even rank in the top earners.
The band I was most interested to see, who didn't let me down, and by that I mean they did let me down, but in a really interesting way, was the Walker Brothers.
Ah, the Walker Brothers.
Have you heard much of Scott Walker's solo music?
I haven't. No.
Are you aware of it by reputation?
No.
So, here's the saga of Scott Walker. After he left the Walker Brothers, he made 4 solo albums of varying between his own compositions and English language covers of the likes of Jacques Brel and Kurt Weill. Uh, the last one of them in particular, Scott 4, as they were unimaginatively named Scott 2, Scott 3, and Scott 4.
He
Scott
got that
4,
idea from Led Zeppelin, didn't he?
he did, yes. Yeah. Who got that idea from 54321? Who got that idea from Arabic numerals? Uh, but Scott 4 is one of those albums I would unhesitatingly say that everyone in the world should listen to. And it tanked. It was a massive, massive commercial flop. And he recorded quite anodyne cover version albums for most of the 70s until he managed to scrape together the money and the connections and the kudos to do his own records as he wanted them by the start of the 80s. And boy, oh boy, were they not what teeny bopper 60s fans of the Walker Brothers were expecting. My favourite of them, 2006, is The Drift. Features a 13-minute noise symphony with a spoken word poem about the death of Mussolini, where the only percussion is a man repeatedly punching a side of beef.
Did he go on to do the score for Rocky?
It's
Wow.
all like this. There was a brief Walker Brothers reunion in the late 70s. It produced some very lovely stuff, and he spent all of the money he earned doing the nostalgia circuit in the late 70s, making some of the maddest and most depressing music ever committed to tape.
Wow.
I mean, respect.
Yeah. Hey, if you can do it,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you? I mean, apart from those millions of reasons why not to,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you?
If you can do it and you're not terribly concerned about selling any records.
You see, this is one of the things that I hope that should I ever be in the lucky position of money literally being no object, I will still have the critical faculties to turn around and say, I could do that if I wanted to, but I won't because it makes no sense.
So, as a big fan of Scott Walker's solo music, beef punching and all, I am watching this thinking, can I see the pain in Scott Walker's eyes as he performs in this lighter than lightweight teen beach movie? And yeah, I think you can. I think he looks really miserable in this.
Well, I mean, to be fair, that I'd like to say that it's the kind of film that you think this has been shot as a drama school entry for a end of year project. But
Yeah.
none of these people have been to drama school ever.
Yeah. The beach
I'm not
party
in.
movies.
I mean, the director himself was a comic.
Yes, I was wondering if you'd found this out that Lenny Weinrib, the director, whose debut this is, and I haven't looked it up, but I'd imagine it's his last film as well. Uh, Also found fame as the voice of Inch High Private Eye.
Well, I mean,
That's a
kudos.
contribution to immortality.
I mean, in much the same way as the beach ball is the genre that wasn't as popular or long lasting as westerns.
Mm.
Inch High Private Eye was that to Hong Kong Phooey.
Yes, it was.
And what they should have done is used Scatman Carruthers as the voice of Inch High, and they'd have been all right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's very sort of it's not a bad show in Chai Private Eye. It has a legacy. It's
Well, no,
inspiring
it
to
doesn't.
see a
That's the
lot.
whole point. I mean, he has got legs, but they're very tiny.
Well, yeah, yeah. It was an inspiration to Rishi Sunak in his youth. Uh,
I can be successful too.
What's that, Dave? I nearly fell over on you.
Oh dear.
But yeah,
Oh,
so this is like it's padded out by basically every beach-related or teen-friendly sport that you
yeah,
can think of.
yeah. There's surfing. There's beach volleyball. There's
Bit of car racing, scuba diving.
yeah.
I
Uh,
suppose the scuba diving sequence is quite
ca-
well worked out.
there's casual misogyny, casual sex, or
Well,
hints thereof.
there isn't any
No,
sex at
no,
all,
no.
casual or otherwise.
But there's an intimation that at some point in the very near future they may verge on the cusp of casual petting.
I absolutely doubt it. It's going to be like that bit in the trailer for Barbie where Ryan Gosling suggests that he and Margot Robbie spend some alone time, and she goes, "And do what?" And he goes, "I don't know." It's that.
Yes. Um,
The scuba diving sequence I quite liked in that it at least provides an excuse for the cast's comic timing to be so painfully slow. Like at least in this one, they're actually underwater.
yes. Unfortunately, someone gave them equipment. I mean, it's an 83-minute long film, of which 5 minutes consists of the Supremes doing a very functional performance of two songs, and they're the best 5 minutes in the whole thing.
And 2 minutes of the B-side of Make It Easy on Yourself while looking like he is already thinking about Mussolini's mistress being hung on a meat hook.
Which was being filmed in the other studio.
Yeah, it was one of the darker beach party entries, wasn't it? Beach party Italiano.
That 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 was the never released and rarely seen Hammer beach party movie.
Weirdly, it also had Sid Haig in. Wasn't doing much drumming in this one, but he was in it.
So I think our listeners,
Hmm,
we still have any left by the end of this podcast, have
it's
probably
questionable.
ascertained by the way that we've gone off on so many tangents
Yes,
that this film hasn't got a lot of meat on the bone.
it really doesn't. But I'll tell you what, I'm glad I watched it because it is just, like I say, a film in a genre that has not existed for about 50 years. It feels
Yeah,
so alien now that there's a sort of excitement about that.
yeah. Um, I
So,
think
what
I,
was.
I think sort of the only film we've covered before that's got any kind of comparison to it was probably Gonks Go Beat.
Unquestionably, yeah, Gonks Go Beats is a
Which,
genre-busting beach party
yeah,
movie.
yeah,
Yeah,
that is your post-apocalyptic beach party movie,
it
which
is.
is two subgenres that should never ever have met.
Yes. Yeah. It's just occurred to me, yeah, my stupid joke about these things taking place in a world without parents is literally true of Gonks Go Beat.
Yeah.
The nearest thing to a dad is Charlie off Casualty.
Oh my. Oh, what a horrendous vision of the future. Well, that and Frank Thornton's suit.
I feel like one tops with line in disaster mongering like that. If Labour get in, they'll ban all dads except Charlie off Casualty.
Yes. I'll expect. You see, I reckon Boris Johnson listens to this podcast. I expect that to be in his Daily Mail column tomorrow.
Yes. It's 60 grand. How many Supremes is that they're paying him
About
for?
250.
Yeah, yeah. For something that can only be described as sub-Adrian Childs.
Yes.
Uh, but yeah, like I say, a subgenre that has nothing to do with modern cinema. So my challenge to you is
What, me
what
personally or to our
to
listeners?
to you personally, actually.
Oh,
The
right.
listeners
Okay.
going to join in, but I'm not going to hear them. It's-
Oh, you need to look at the comment section.
That's why I'm not going to hear them. I'm not going to do that. My challenge to you is what is the modern equivalent of a beach party movie? What is the nearest thing we've got now to the beach party scene?
Ooh, that's a very good question. Um, I mean, it's. Do you know? I think it's all these ridiculous threat movies. You know, like
But,
Piranha and
yeah.
Sharknado, and
Yes.
because although there is that sort of horror element to it,
Mm.
it invariably involves young people on a beach who really ought to have more bikinis than that at the rate at which they're going to have to rapidly change them.
That's good. Yes, there is a definite kind of weirdly antiseptic horniness that two subgenres have in common.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's probably the nearest because I think, and I think it's kind of an almost sad reflection on modern society, really, because although we've scoffed at the concept of the beach ball movie and how frothy and light and everything it is,
Mm.
it it's kind of um it's kind of a throwback to the fact that actually early teenage leisure was that innocent. It was, you know, oh hey, let's form a band. That's a good idea. Because what could possibly go wrong? We'll play some music, some people will like it, and hey, we'll all have a good time. There's a touching naivety to the characters in these films,
That's
and
true.
I think that these days society is just too cynical and ground down by reality to appreciate that simple, naive joy. I think it's why um, when we look at the series that are getting remade time and time again on like Sunday afternoon serials, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We're not getting remakes of the famous Five and the Secret Seven anymore.
Mm.
You know that innocence of childhood is gone, and I think we'll work for it.
I have a fantasy of like making a modern dress version of the famous five, but sticking like scrupulously close to Enid Blyton's plots, but just doing it in modern clothes, just to see how many people write in going, they're drinking beer, they're skipping off school to solve this.
And of course, we'll get to we can actually get to the real reason why George likes to be called George.
Well, that's it. Yes, yeah. I mean, even the Guardian would be offended by that these days.
Indeed. So yeah,
So yes.
what we need is a number beginning with W, and we need to create our own little crime busting team. But we need a number beginning with W because we've had the Secret Seven,
Hmm.
the famous five. We need the woke.
Yeah, yeah. That's true. Yeah. Um, I don't know. The ASBO 18, it works if you say it in the right voice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There is something about those shows that, because they were even bland and naive when we were kids.
Yeah.
You know, like Grange Hill featured the only secondary school where the kids didn't swear,
Yes.
but was the nearest we had to gritty realism. Um,
A proud tradition that is kept by American cable crime dramas where every week they find the body of another eviscerated sex worker and go, that guy who did this must have been a real jerk.
yeah. So yeah, I think there is a certain hole in the media landscape.
Definitely. I think we need someone to make a movie about wholesome teenagers having fun on the beach, just as long as it's not Harmony Korine, because that's backfired before.
Right. Yeah.
But yes, I think that wraps it all up. I think we've done well to get this
I,
amount of time
I,
out of it
I mean,
unbelievably.
to be fair, we we fleshed that out probably more than the aging stars of the movie itself have.
Yes. Yes, listeners, if you donate to our Patreon, you can get a version of this podcast where Frankie Valli reads out trivia every 15 minutes. Uh, you could
Oh,
also
that'd
get
be
next.
brilliant. And we'd probably only have to pay him $200.
You could also get an exclusive episode of this very podcast every month. I don't know what stage it's at. I don't know whether it'll be imminent when this goes out, but we are going to do a Barbie episode. Dua Lipa's in it, so,
Are we?
yeah, yeah. I mean, a generalized we. I'm not targeting you. I know that we haven't discussed this before, but in a general Barbie episode. Yes,
I'm a huge
uh,
admirer of Margot Robbie, as you know.
of course, yes, yeah. And Greta Gerwig following up Little Women with another challenging literary adaptation.
You see, I think that Barbie is one of those films. Look at the cast it's attracted.
Hmm.
None of them are idiots when it comes to picking projects,
Oh
really.
no, no.
So I think there must be something in there that makes it a movie rather than just a shameless toy cash-in.
I think
I
it.
don't think this is going to be 1985's Dolph Lundgren, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
Although imagine it was. Imagine if it was literally that, the exact same script, but with Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling in it, and Helen Mirren doing the narration. Imagine if it was that.
No, Helen Mirren as Orko. Oh, it's not Orko, is it? It's some gnome character that
It's a
they replaced
knockoff
Orko with.
Orko. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's disgraceful.
Orko Light.
Saw it when I was about 8, and the bitterness is still in my mouth.
Oh, dear.
Yes, but we are planning to do one of those. I've also started doing a new series of reviews of the X-Files Myth Arc episodes.
Have you?
I have, yes.
Wow.
Asking the age-old question: does this shit make any sense or not?
Well, I think it does up to the end of season 8.
But no, I'm rounding off season 1 at the moment.
I think it all makes sense up to about the end of maybe the middle of season 8.
Okay.
And then the sense and the logic tails off through all the later seasons, including the reboots and the second movie.
Hmm. But yes, all that, our Rob's reviews of Asian films that lack a UK distributor, our other movie and TV podcast last night, and loads more stuff, all at patreon.co.uk, sorry, patreon.com/The Geek Show. But until we return in a fortnight's time, that's been your lot from Pop Screen. I've been Graham.
And I've been Mick.
And we'll see you in a fortnight's time.